If you woke up today feeling that life is stuck, that no matter how much you try, no matter how much you exert yourself, it seems there is something invisible holding you in the same place, pay close attention. Because what I am going to reveal to you in this video is not theory. It is not guesswork. It is not a pretty internet phrase. It is the exact mechanism that is sabotaging your life at this moment, and it has a name, the triangle of stagnation. These are three forces that feed off one another and create a prison so silent that most people spend their entire lives trapped in it without even noticing. You will understand now what these three forces are, how they connect, why they chose you specifically, and most importantly, how to break this triangle once and for all. If you are here, it is not by chance. Stay until the end, because the third point of this triangle will shock you. And the solution I will give you at the end is something you can apply this very day. Before entering into the 3 points, I need to ask you a question, and I want you to answer with honesty, even if it is only to yourself, there inside your heart. How many times in the last months have you had the sensation that you are living on autopilot, waking up, working, solving other people's problems, paying bills, sleeping, and repeating, without energy, without will, without that glow you felt before, without that hope that made your eyes light up when you thought about the future? Perhaps you are over 35 years old and are beginning to perceive that time is passing too fast, that the years are flying by, and that life you imagined having at this stage simply did not arrive. You look back and think, where did I go wrong? Or worse, is there still time? You see younger people conquering things, posting travels, changing cars, living with freedom, and you are there, in the same place, with the same anguish, with the same sensation that something is missing which you cannot name. I tell you now, there is time. Yes, there is time, but only if you understand what is holding you, and it is exactly this that this video will do for you. It will open your eyes in a way no one ever has before. Let us go to the first point of the triangle. And this one is treacherous because it disguises itself as virtue. Everyone applauds those who have this characteristic. But behind the applause, it is destroying you in silence. The first point is the addiction to sacrifice. Let me explain to you. In Brazil, we grew up hearing that suffering is noble, that he who works hard is blessed, that God helps those who rise early, that life is difficult indeed and we have to endure it quietly. We grew up seeing father and mother arriving destroyed from work, complaining of body pain without vacations, without leisure, and saying with pride, "It is just like this, son. Life is not easy for anyone." And look, hard work is indeed important. Dedication is fundamental. But there is an enormous difference between dedicating oneself with purpose and sacrificing oneself by habit, between working with intelligence and dragging oneself by obligation. The majority of people over 35 years old in Brazil are trapped in a cycle of sacrifice that leads nowhere. They work 12, 14 hours a day. They take crowded buses. They face absurd traffic. They give up rest, health, leisure, family, friends, all in the name of a better future that never arrives. And do you know what is worse? When someone suggests that this person rest, that they take care of themselves, that they take a day to do nothing, they feel guilt. As if resting were laziness, as if taking care of oneself were selfishness, as if stopping for a bit meant being weak. This is not strength. This is a programming that was installed in your mind since childhood, by your parents, by the school, by religion, by the soap opera, by the neighbor, by the entire society. And this programming says the following: you only have value when you are suffering. You only deserve something good when you pay a high price. If it came easy, be suspicious. If it did not hurt, it was not worth it. Do you perceive how dangerous this is? Because when you believe in this, you unconsciously reject everything that comes easy. You reject opportunities. You reject help. You reject gifts. You even reject love. Because deep down, you feel you do not deserve it without having suffered enough. How many times has someone offered you something good and you said, "No need, no"? How many times have you refused help because you felt that accepting was a sign of weakness? Neuroscience has already proven that the human brain forms patterns of behavior based on emotional repetition. When you spend years, decades, associating suffering with personal value, your brain creates a neural circuit that literally makes you seek situations of difficulty. You become addicted to struggle, addicted to tiredness, addicted to having something to complain about. And when life tries to give you a breath, when a real chance of peace and prosperity appears, you sabotage it. You start a confusion. You create a problem. You fight with someone you should not. You spend money you could not. Because peace causes you estrangement. Calmness bothers you. You do not know how to live without crisis. How many times have you been in a good moment and out of nowhere thought, "This will not last," or started looking for defects in a situation that was working, or stayed waiting for the next disgrace to fall because, whenever things improve, something bad happens? This is the addiction to sacrifice operating. It is your brain saying, "Hey, we are not used to being well like this. Something is wrong. Go back to the suffering, which is where we know how to function." And it is this first point of the triangle that binds your destiny. But calm down, because the second point will explain to you where all of this came from. Now, if this first point already made you think, hold firm, because the second is even deeper. It is about this that almost no one speaks. And when you understand what I am going to show you now, many things in your life will make sense for the first time. The second point of the triangle is inherited guilt. And here we enter a terrain that mixes psychology, spirituality, and family history. Pay close attention. Have you ever stopped to think why certain pains you carry do not seem to be yours? That anguish that appears without reason. That fear of prospering that has no logical explanation. That sensation that you cannot be too happy because someone in your family suffered greatly. That tightness in the chest that arises every time you are about to take a large step in life. There exists a field of study called behavioral epigenetics that shows something impressive. Emotional traumas can be transmitted from generation to generation through alterations in the expression of genes. It is not a metaphor, it is science. Researchers at Emory University in the United States demonstrated in the laboratory that traumatic experiences alter chemical markers in the DNA, and these alterations are passed to the following generations. This means that the fear your grandmother felt, the scarcity your grandfather lived, the humiliation your great-grandparents suffered, the pain your parents carried in silence, all of this may be literally encoded in your body, running in your veins, influencing your decisions without you having the slightest idea. In the Brazilian context, this is even stronger. Think of the history of our people. We come from generations that went through slavery, hunger, devastating droughts in the northeast, forced migrations, rural exodus, military dictatorship, hyperinflation, brutal economic crises, one after another. Our ancestors survived unimaginable things, and their survival strategy was only one: do not appear, do not dare, do not want too much, stay quiet, accept the little, give thanks for the minimum. Because wanting too much was dangerous, being noticed was risky, raising one's head could mean losing everything, or worse. And this survival mentality was passed from father to son, from mother to daughter, generation after generation, through phrases, through looks, through silences. Do not mess with that. Who are we to want so much? Every rich person is a thief. Money is the root of all evil. We are poor, but we are honest. Have you heard any of these? Indeed. Each one of them is a brick in the wall that separates you from the life you deserve. So when you feel that tightness in the chest at the time of asking for a raise, when you freeze at the time of starting your own business, when you feel you cannot earn more than your parents earned, when you look at an opportunity and think, "This is not for people like me, this is not weakness, it is unconscious loyalty." You are being loyal to a pain that is not even yours. You are carrying a burden that belongs to another generation. And while you do not recognize this, you cannot let go. In systemic therapy, developed by the German therapist Bert Hellinger, this is called family entanglement. The person entangles themselves with the destiny of an ancestor and repeats patterns of failure, illness, loneliness, or unhappiness as an unconscious way of honoring those who came before. It is as if, deep down, your unconscious said, "If my grandparents suffered, I do not have the right to be happy. If my mother never had anything, who am I to have? And this phrase, even if you have never said it out loud, may be governing every decision of your life. Every relationship, every bank account, every lost opportunity. Now think with me. If the first point makes you believe that suffering is noble, and the second point makes you carry pains that are not yours, imagine the combined effect of this in your life. You sacrifice yourself without stopping, carrying guilts that are not even yours, and you still think this is normal, that this is adult life, that everyone lives like this, but it is not. This is the triangle operating, in silence, in the dark, without you perceiving. And now comes the third point. This one here is the most dangerous of all because it is the one that keeps the other two in place. It is the lock, the padlock, the piece that prevents the triangle from undoing itself. If you leave this video understanding only this third point, it will already transform your life, so stay with me. Do not leave now. What comes next can change everything. The third point of the triangle is the victim identity disguised as humility. This one is strong, I know, but it needs to be said, and it needs to be heard with an open heart. There exists an enormous difference between being humble and diminishing oneself. And in Brazil, we confuse the two things in a way that is doing gigantic damage. We learned that being humble is not wanting too much, not dreaming big, not speaking of one's own conquests, not valuing oneself, not charging what one deserves. When someone praises us, we deflect. Ah, imagine it is nothing. When someone asks how much we charge, we lower the price before the other complains. When a good opportunity arises, we think, there must be someone more prepared than I. But this is not humility. This is self-sabotage dressed as virtue. It is a victim identity so rooted that it became personality. It became a way of being. It became my little way. True humility is recognizing your value without arrogance. It is knowing that you deserve good things without needing to boast. It is accepting praises without averting your gaze. It is charging what is fair for your work without feeling that you are robbing someone. It is saying, I am good at what I do without fear of appearing conceited. But what happens with the majority of people? They hide. They charge less than they are worth. They accept crumbs in relationships. They stay in jobs that suck the soul because, at least it is a job. They endure disrespect quietly because worse is to be alone, or worse is to be unemployed. And when someone suggests that they deserve more, they respond with phrases such as, ah, but I am not that good. There are people in much worse situations. I cannot complain, right? These phrases seem noble. They seem mature. But they are mortal traps, because every time you diminish yourself, you are reinforcing the belief that you do not deserve. And when you do not believe you deserve, you do not act to conquer. And when you do not act, life does not change. And when life does not change, you look around and say, see, nothing works for me. I was born to suffer. And you confirm the belief. You close the cycle. You tighten the knot. You strengthen the triangle. It is a perfect vicious cycle. And this cycle is the glue that keeps the entire triangle standing. Without this third point, the other two collapse. But while it is firm, the triangle is indestructible. Now let me tell you something that will change the way you see all of this. A research conducted with Brazilian adults showed that more than 70% of those interviewed present clear signs of financial self-sabotage. That is, even when they have the opportunity to earn more, to invest, to grow, to change life, they unconsciously make choices that keep them in the same place. They spend what they should not. They let opportunities pass. They make excuses. They procrastinate. And when the researchers went to investigate the deepest causes, they found exactly these three forces operating together. The belief that suffering is necessary, loyalty to family patterns of scarcity, and a self-image of inferiority. The triangle, the 3 points, working together, in silence, without the person perceiving, like a virus that operates in the background of the system and goes on corroding everything little by little. But here is where the thing changes, because now you know, now you see, and he who sees can no longer pretend he did not see. Knowing is the first step to breaking. So let us go to the most important part of this video, how to destroy this triangle, step by step, in a practical way. something you can begin to apply today. The first step is conscious recognition. You need to look at your life with courage and identify where each point is acting. Take a paper. It can be right now. Pause the video if you need, and write 3 columns. In the first, put, "Where do I sacrifice myself without necessity?" Think of the places where you are killing yourself without return. In the commitments you took on by obligation, not by desire. In the times you said yes, wanting to say no. In the second column, what pains do I carry that are not mine? Think of the beliefs of your family about money, about success, about happiness, in the phrases you heard growing up, in the fears that do not make sense in your current reality, but that are there, firm, as if they were part of you. In the third column, where do I diminish myself? Think of the moments in which you charged less, accepted less, kept quiet when you should have spoken, deflected a praise, refused an opportunity for fear of not being enough. Only the act of writing already begins to break the spell. Because these forces operate in the dark, they depend on your unconsciousness to function. At the moment you throw light upon them, at the moment you give them a name, they lose power. They shrink, like shadows that disappear when you turn on the light. In fact, do the following. Write in the comments which of the 3 points impacted you most. It can be the first, the second, or the third. I read all the comments personally, and this helps me create content increasingly directed to you. And more, when you write, you externalize. You take it from inside you and put it outside. And this is already part of the cure. The second step is the rupture of the emotional pattern. It is not enough to understand intellectually. Many people understand the problem, but do not change because change does not happen only in the head. It needs to happen in the body, in the cells, in the energy. You need to feel the change. And for that, I will give you an exercise that seems simple, but is extremely powerful. It has already transformed the lives of thousands of people who follow this channel. It is called the ancestral mirror technique. It works like this. Every day in the morning, before starting the routine, you stand in front of a mirror. It can be the bathroom mirror. Look into your own eyes. Do not deflect. Do not laugh from nervousness. Sustain the gaze. And say out loud with firmness, "I honor the pain of those who came before me. I recognize the sacrifice of my ancestors. But I refuse to repeat this pain. My life is mine. My destiny is mine. And from now on, I choose to live, not just survive. I deserve abundance. I deserve peace. I deserve love. And I give myself permission to receive all of this." It may seem strange. It may seem silly. Your mind will resist. It will say that this is nonsense, that it does not work, that you are talking to yourself in the bathroom. But when you do this with real intention, with an open chest, with eyes firm in your own eyes, something moves inside you. Something ancient begins to let go. Because you are doing something you perhaps have never done in your life. You are giving yourself permission. Permission to be happy without guilt. Permission to prosper without shame. Permission to let go of the weight that is not yours and that never should have been. Neuroscience explains this clearly. When you verbalize an intention looking into your own eyes, you simultaneously activate the prefrontal cortex, responsible for conscious decision-making, and the limbic system, responsible for emotions and deep memories. This double activation creates what neuroscientists call memory reconsolidation. That is, you are literally reprogramming an old belief with a new emotional instruction. You are saying to your brain, "That old program no longer serves. Install this new one here." And do this every day, without skipping. In the morning, before looking at the cell phone, before opening WhatsApp, before reading bad news. It does not need to be 10 minutes, 30 seconds suffice, but it needs to be with presence, with truth, with eyes in the eyes of who you are now, not of who they told you should be. The third step is the reconstruction of identity. And this is the most transformative step of all, because until here we were taking away what does not serve, cleaning, removing. Now we are going to put in what is missing. We are going to build in the clean place. You need to create a new story about who you are. Not the story your parents told, not the story society wrote, not the story that failure repeated so many times that it became truth. Your story, written by you, with the words you choose, with the ending you decide. And I will help you with this now. Close your eyes for a second if you can, and think of the person you would be if the triangle had never existed. If you had never learned that suffering is noble, if you had never carried others' guilts, if you had never diminished yourself before anyone, who would this person be? How would they wake up in the morning? With what energy? With what smile? What type of work would they do? How would they treat their own body? What type of relationship would they have? How much money would they allow themselves to have in the account without feeling guilt? This person exists. They are inside you, intact, whole, waiting. It is just that the triangle put layers and more layers of fear, guilt, shame, and disbelief on top of them. It buried them under years of negative programming. And your work now, your mission, is to take off these layers, one by one, day after day, with patience and with determination. Do you know what is beautiful in all of this? When you break the triangle in your life, you do not break it only for yourself. You break it for everyone who comes after you, your children, your grandchildren, the future generations of your family. Because if pain can be transmitted from generation to generation, the cure can also be. If trauma travels through DNA, liberation also travels. When you choose to stop sacrificing yourself by habit, when you let go of inherited guilts, when you stand up and say, "I deserve," you are rewriting the emotional genetic code of your lineage. You are planting a seed of freedom that will bear fruit for decades, perhaps centuries. You are healing backwards and forwards at the same time. Is this responsibility? It is. It is an enormous responsibility. But it is also the greatest gift you can give to those you love. Because the best you can do for your children is not to work until you fall. It is to heal yourself. It is to liberate yourself. It is to show them that it is possible to live in another way. Now, I know that all of this may seem like a lot at once, and it is normal to feel resistance. The ego will try to convince you that this is nonsense, that you are fine the way you are, that you do not need to change anything, that this video is just another one of those motivational contents that leads to nothing. This resistance, this voice that minimizes, that doubts, that discards, is precisely the triangle fighting to survive, because it knows that when you awaken, it dies, and it does not want to die. It feeds on your unconsciousness, on your tiredness, on your resignation, on your "it is just like this." So every time you feel that internal voice saying, "This is not for me, this does not work, I have already tried everything and nothing changed," know that this voice is not yours. It is the voice of the pattern. It is the triangle speaking through your mouth, and you can choose not to obey. You can choose to say, "No, this time I will do it differently." There is a phrase that I repeat always, and that summarizes everything we talked about here. Your life changes at the moment you stop asking for permission to live. Think about this. Think calmly. How many times are you asking for permission? Permission from the boss, permission from the spouse, permission from the family, permission from society, permission from the opinion of others, permission even from God, as if the Creator had put you in this world to suffer, to crawl, to drag yourself. No, you were not put here for that. You were not put here for that. You were put here to live, to experiment, to grow, to contribute, to serve, to shine. And to shine is not a sin. To shine is not vanity. To shine is an obligation. It is the minimum you owe to the universe that gave you the chance to be alive. If this video made sense to you, if something here inside touched a place that needed to be touched, if you felt something move in your chest while hearing these words, then help me take this message to more people. Give a like to this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are not yet subscribed. Activate the bell to be notified every time I post. Because every week I bring content like this, made to awaken, made to liberate, made for those who are ready to change for real. Now, before finishing, I want to leave you with one last reflection, and this is perhaps the most important of all, the one that will keep hammering in your head when this video ends. The triangle that I showed you today is not an external enemy. It is not a curse. It is not a divine punishment. It is not bad luck. It is not destiny. It is a program, an old software running in your mind, and like every program, it can be uninstalled, it can be replaced, it can be updated. But the uninstallation does not happen overnight. It is a process, a daily process of conscious choices, of perceiving when you are sacrificing yourself by habit and choosing to stop, of perceiving when you're carrying a guilt that is not yours and choosing to let go, of perceiving when you're diminishing yourself and choosing to stand up, of perceiving when the triangle is speaking through your mouth and choosing to silence that voice. Each day that you make these choices, one point of the triangle weakens, cracks, begins to crumble. And a moment arrives, which may be closer than you imagine, in which the triangle simply collapses. And when it falls, you will feel something you perhaps have not felt for years, perhaps decades: lightness. That lightness of one who finally let go of the weight, of one who finally allowed themselves to breathe deeply without fear, of one who finally understood that life does not need to be a constant struggle, a daily battlefield, a war without end. Life can be light, life can be good, life can be abundant, not because you did everything right, not because you suffered enough, but because you exist. And that, in itself, is already reason enough. You were chosen to watch this video. Among millions of contents on the internet, among so many videos, so many distractions, so many paths, you clicked on this one. This is not coincidence. It is a calling for you to break the chains, let go of the burdens, and begin to live the life that was always yours by right. The life that was waiting for you on the other side of the triangle. The triangle is broken, the chains are loose, now it is with you, the next step is yours. We will see each other in the next video. And if you want to go even deeper into this process of liberation, comment here below the word FREE, in capital letters, with strength, with intention. This will be your first act of rupture, the first step of your new story. The first crack in the triangle. I am here with you and I am not alone. There are thousands of people on this channel going through the same awakening. Let us go together.